Okay, well, I'll leave it. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our March poetry reading in the Milwaukie Poetry Series. I'm Tom Hogan, the coordinator of the series, and I want to welcome you all to our event tonight. Thank you very much for being here. It's wonderful to see you. We've had some Oregon weather. It's great that the days are longer. I love the longer days, and you can do things in the evening, and it just feels like Oregon. So it's a little bit more light, and we've got rain. Okay, we understand that. So thank you very much for being here. I know that you have a lot of things that are demands on your time, on all our time, and coming out and reading poetry and being together and doing that in the community is just great. I want to say the same things and welcome to those of you on the live stream who have logged on. Thank you very much for doing that and for being here as well. I want to acknowledge someone who is with us tonight, our Oregon Poet Laureate Emerita. He's right here in the second row, Paul Ann Peterson. Thank you very much for being here. Some thanks I want to make, because there's always people to thank, and we're very grateful. One is the city of Milwaukie. They have been supportive of us at the Milwaukie Poetry Series since the beginning, which was 19 years ago, and we're delighted about that. So we're in our 19th season. Thanks to the Letting Library. So we are here in this beautiful new library. I say new because we worked on it for so long, and it took a long time to get it, but still it's 5 years old. It turned 5 years old about 3 months ago. So it's just, it's lovely. And it's one story where the other one was 2 stories, and it really fits on the footprint a little better. Thanks to the Milwaukie Poetry Series Committee. So we do have a committee that works on this. Kristen, who is back there, and my lovely wife Jane, and Nate over here. So yeah, please give them a hand, because we don't have something happen unless people are working on it. And finally, our partner from Willamette Falls Media Center, back here, Josh Reynolds. Josh is the person in the headphones that makes all this happen and puts out the live stream. So we call him the magician. And let's give Josh a hand. He deserves it. I want to say a little bit about a couple of events that are coming up. We are going to have our first poet discussion in several years, since back before the pandemic, when we used to have that. And David Beispiel is going to be here, and he is going to make a presentation, talk about Stanley Plumley, and he's going to lead a discussion. And so that is here on the 28th of March. Then we're having our spring reading on April 1st. The subject is going to be humor. I should just tell you, April 1st really is on April 1st. And April Fool's Day really is that day. So that's going to be here, 6 o'clock. They will be an open mic. So that's the next open mic that we're going to have. And in April, we're planning to have Carolyn Martin. Carolyn Martin says that she's ready to read. And so that's the plan, is for her to be reading here second week in April, second Wednesday, April 8th. Okay, great. Thank you. You have a broadside? I should show you my phone. And if you could please silence your beepers, pagers, phones, your telephonic devices, that would be great. I've been looking forward to this reading. Cynthia's been here twice before. We're delighted that she's here. Let me tell you a little bit about the many things that are in her resume. She is a poet, playwright, producer, and educator. She is the author of 3 poetry collections and 5 produced plays. Her awards include 2025 Washington Humanities Award for K-12 education. 2018 Willow Books Editors Choice Poetry Selection. 2017 Oregon Book Award for Drama. 2016 Oregon Literary Fellowship. 2015 International Latino Book Award finalist. And Poets and Writers Magazine 2014 Notable Debut Poet. In 2022, her choreo poem, In the Name of Forgotten Women, was acclaimed by Willamette Week as a vibrant call to action. Her poems have appeared in Harvard Journal of Feminist Studies and Religion, National University of Mexico, UNAM's, Portland State University's Portland Review, Benedictine University's Quantity, among others. Cindy's work is inspired, she says, by the silent and silenced voices of history, her story, and her own story. Would you join me in welcoming our poet tonight, Cindy Williams Gutierrez.
Everything reverberates. Oh, thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. It's such a joy to be with you. And the only sadness is that my husband couldn't be here tonight, but he might be watching. So if not tonight, he'll watch it later. This tender geography marks a departure for me. It's a deeply personal collection. I've written in the voices of Aztec poet kings, and I've immersed myself in the global oppression of women and their stories in 20 countries around the world. And this is really dedicated to the two men I have loved most deeply, my father and my husband. Home for me is the Texas border with Mexico. I was born and raised less than 3 miles from the Rio Grande River and 30 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. The book was published by a small press 60 miles from where I grew up, and the cover art was made by an artist who lives 20 miles from my hometown, and the cover was designed by my own husband. So I'm going to start the way I always do when I read from this book. First tongue. My love is everlasting, my mother. Love always, my father. Take gentle care, my sister. Map the first tongue to the geography of family. Words fueled by breath of 4 bordering bodies. A hurricane of verbs: need, protect, entwine. Soil with tended roots and a single shoot, us. And an ocean of everlasting, always, gently, breaking through narrow gulfs of silence. To be raised beside a river is to be borderless. When does a stream divide, and when does it multiply into a bridge? Where do you 3 end and I begin? If I stop speaking, I hear your thrum in my lungs. Your voice fills all my hollow spaces, the folds of knee and elbow, shallow between collarbones. Only fractions remain: wing, branch, wave. I am not me without you, you, you. In the reading, I will introduce you to wing, branch, wave, though not in this order. First, branch. Phantom limbs. The tree lies at my feet like bones of the raised house. I am caught in its canopy green cloud. Once in that cloud, I saw children waiting for their father, watch them run into his waiting arms. Once I ran to my father, stepped on the running board of his VW Bug. We circled the cul-de-sac without stopping. I was the first face that stopped him when he arrived home, the first beaming a long hello. I climbed that unnamed tree that is now a ghost, waiting for my father. My father is a ghost now. The tree is undead. The green cloud reaches to the curb where he parked the Volkswagen, later the Valiant. Both washed out grays or the palest greens. The tree belongs to someone else, to the new owner of the unraised house. The raising is only in my mind. My father is the trunk of the tree, the loam for the roots of the tree, the limbs spreading wide to the sun. My face is my father's smile, not merely undead, but radiant. Memory is the name of the tree, no longer called ash. Only the ash of wings still burning, ash still branching into family with roots in a place that can never be raised, can never be ghost, never be lost. One thing I enjoy doing in a collection is weaving together images. Sometimes I include a specific poem that actually performs this weaving, and I place it in a very particular point in the book so that if the reader reads very closely, they actually will be able to discern this weaving. The titular poem, This Tender Geography, is one of these poems, and tonight is the first time I'm going to read it, but not right away. So I invite you to pay close attention to the central images of each member of my family. And I'll give you a hint. I just read the poem with the central image for my father. So, family, mortality, forgiveness. These are the themes I explore in this tender geography. Witness. Don't look, my father croaked. I won't. The cat on the street was freshly dead. I want to stare hard, but don't, except out of one yellow eye. Years go by. No friend has died of cancer. I drive past a cat wrongly sprawled. I don't stop, but I wonder if it's still dying. If I were in my future, I'd turn back, find out, then sit as long as it breathed. One more for my father. My father was a man of passion. He had a great zest for life, and he had his obsessions, history, and exercise, and bullfighting. Progressive dinner. 1, midnight special with Elvis. Martinis with a whole lot of shaking going on. Lazy Susan spinning in the center of the table. Grace before we eat to land us in God's favor. Main dish, only thighs, oh so close to the chicken's pelvis. Dancing before, during, and after. Your LPs, Elvis, were left for me under the tree by Santa when I was his baby girl. Dessert, honey pie with a lemon twist. 2, late night supper with James Madison. In high school, I wrote the Constitution with one co-signer. Mr. Madison, my founding father, and I were neither forgers nor plagiarists. By hand on a scroll I scorched in the oven. Tonight's menu, aged parchment, a quill pen, and the right to choose each course, naturally, by candlelight. 3, one more meal with my father. Tapas bar in Sevilla after a bullfight. Shouts of ole and shots of tequila with salt. A pulsing paso doble and tales of matadors. You played the bull as a kid with fingers for horns. Bites of Spanish tortilla and serrano ham, manchego cheese, manzanilla olives, marcona almonds, and the creamiest flan for dessert. Your smile lighting the Andalusite sky. No leftovers, only forgiveness. The first half of the collection includes poems written for my father and the other members of my family of origin, even a few about me. Next, I introduce you to Wave. I am interested in the page, the blank page, as a canvas. Maybe because my husband is a painter, maybe not. So I'd like to show you what this one looks like visually. The title will clue you in to why I chose to format the poem this way. And by the way, I actually had to format this one for the book myself. She did a great job with all the others, but this was pretty complicated. For my sister who dreams of blue holes in the ocean as I dream of the sky. A blue hole in the sky, ring of dovetailing clouds. I want to free fall, emerge near Belize in Lighthouse Reef. Dive, surface, dive, and snag on stalactites in this ice cave flooded for millennia. I want to swim from this sinkhole to blue holes in every sea. Caribbean, red, the South China, the dragon hole waits to be slayed. All this dark cobalt and sharks gliding dangerously close. This is the place I will find you. A seemingly endless hole, made of 2 oceans of silence. This is where I want to sink now, in the right light, or with no light. Just touch the dark deep. My sister has a dream of going down in one of those cages and being circled by sharks. That is not my dream. Excuse me. Place holds great sway over my imagination. You can probably tell by the title of the book, all the references to geography. In the first poem, I write about the river, the Rio Grande and the Gulf, hurricanes. I also write about the ocean because it is the place I feel the deepest connection. In reflecting on this next poem, which I did just as I was writing these notes, actually, I hadn't done it until this moment, I realize now that perhaps I chose this place of safety to explore something that felt unsafe. A meaningful distance between us. The heron pecks at a mass of glassy seaweed, then ruffles its feathers. The blue heron stands in the ocean's shallows as wind slices the dunes. My ear pressed to the sand, waves lap like timpani, and the pecking is plucked string. Now the heron dwells, rooted in the wet sand. My eye gazes into its small sun. Only us, the heron, the tide, the clouds, and my right side pressing into the sand, etching my shape onto grains of earth that may be scorched into glass, into a vessel to hold water or flame or feathers. I am a vessel containing water and air. My lungs fuel breath and ignite a fire beneath the weight of an anvil. Some call it asthma. I call it a silencing, this metallic taste leaking from my chest. The gray-blue heron lifts one lithe leg. Grace balances. What is the equilibrium between light and dark? My shadow-stained lung compresses against the earth as my benign left expands to inhale the lone heron's stillness. Breathing stirs with ease. If I refuse anesthesia, will the heron peck the ground glass from my right lung to keep at a distance riotous growth? I learned about GGO, ground glass opacity, a radiological finding consisting of a hazy opacity. So that's what inspired the image from a CT scan. The second half of the book features poems inspired by and dedicated to my husband, Michael, who would have loved to have been here. And so let me share one of those with you, a very short one. So I'll read it twice. And those of you who know something about him, it'll even have more meaning. Unmapped. In our small country, I explore your wilderness. You blur my borders. In our small country, I explore your wilderness. You blur my borders. He's a wilderness guy, and I'm a border gal. Now, here's the titular poem, and let's see if you stored all the images away. Are you ready? Okay. This tender geography. 1. A lobe vibrates air. Whole lungs can break into song. Tumors make no sound. A slope becomes a mountain. I learn to breathe without you. 2. I took root in you. I tremor without your loam. Clay mires my steps. I inch toward a crevasse. Both of you reach to catch me. 3. You fear the ocean. Water is my second skin. You dwell in my deep. Lambent rivers lure me home. We tumbled from the same womb. 4. 2 maps of bodies, this tender geography. We burn the same match. One breath feeds 2 mouths. Distance tenders into flame. How'd y'all do? You all is Texan for you all, you know. Even on the border, we say y'all. Now a couple of poems for my beloved. Where eating leads. Besides fire, I have consumed dried apricots on the Bosphorus, fleshy mangoes in Manila, coconuts on the milky sands of Ipanema. I did not know dried fruit could be plump as a glass of Turkish tea, leave no golden strings between my teeth, taste as fresh as shavings of vanilla-scented snow. I have swallowed wind on the Seine and the South China Sea, my hair pirouetting off the port side of craft, skimming toward the Eiffel, casinos in Macau. And I wolf down words, a craving long fed by my father's midnight suppers of synonyms. Soon, eating was not enough. I began to exhale gales of words onto the briny page. But you know this. You alone, muse, lover, astonisher, testify to my indulgence in feral tempest and luscious fruit. You never wonder how I devour fire. You burn through me. So I used to leave my papers, my high school papers, for my father. My father worked shift work, so he wouldn't get back until midnight. And I would leave them for him on the kitchen table, and I would wake up the next morning and there would be pages of his comments, his remarks, his thoughts, and synonyms. Yeah. So much generous support. He's probably the only person who, in every conversation, asked me, "What are you writing? What are you writing?" This is also for Michael. Note, I never left you. As marrow was aspirated from your pelvic bone, I could not breathe. Too deep to fathom the core of one body, my life without yours. I'm also reading this poem for the first time, and I want to dedicate it to Kathy Kroll. Because you asked me for a copy one time. Remedies. We've spoken about illness. Here's some remedies. A broken heart. Mend a split rail fence, a fallen cairn, then darn a fleece blanket, a pair of alpaca socks. The war in your heart. Sew a streamer of white flags, wave your prayer in the moonlight before you sleep. Shame. Build a sandcastle at high tide. Paint family secrets on matchbooks. Place one in each turret. Strike a match and watch. Forgetting the ancestors. Walk among weeping trees each day. Rest beneath their canopies of shade. Miscommunication. Practice gibberish with an invisible friend. Prolonged silence. Sing on your balcony, in your meadow, from your rooftop. Saying too much. Only touch. I have a closing poem from the collection to introduce you to Wing, so we're going to wait for that. But before we even get into the Q&A, I would like to give you a sneak peek of my manuscript in progress. And in this chapbook, I speak directly to human emotions and qualities, with two exceptions. In the case of this first poem, the quality speaks directly to me. Vulnerability. Relax. I won't linger. You wouldn't want your husband to find us together. I know you think you can just keep covering me up with masks, but if Brene Brown divulged in her viral TED Talk that she couldn't outsmart me, you don't stand a chance. Besides, not every day is Carnevale, not in Venice, not here. No more masquerade. No feathery colombina, porcelain volto, stark white bauta. No button to bite to hold the black velvet Moretta in place, rendering you mute. Time to improvise. Remember the last time I showed up unannounced? Half your world had gone dark. A curtain had fallen in your eye. You weren't sure you'd ever see stage left again. I'd call it prophecy, because that's the spot I'm in now, except it's not that you can't see me, you simply refuse. You know that without me, your flaws will claw their way out only in the dark. No one will ever see through you. Backlight me, unveil the tender, expose the gash. Acceptance. My breath races. A secret code spirals through my mind. A, C, G, T, the genetic alphabet of DNA. The first time I stitched you and the other three into a pattern during a brain MRI to confirm or deny metastasis. Every strand in my cells screamed, "Get me out of this roaring metal tunnel." The jackhammer of magnetic coils rapidly switching, the knocking, the banging, the clicking, and I whirred under my breath, acceptance, compassion, gratitude, truth. Acceptance, compassion, gratitude, truth. Over and over for what felt like longer than the half century that had led me to this moment. But you must have known. It was only 50 ticks around the clock. I tried to erase the image of the minute hand dragging through oceans of ore. For almost an hour, I meditated, my head buzzing like copper coils. I lay pinned inside a gigantic titanium halo as you levitated. Pain. My Buddhist teacher says we should not expect a life without you. I stock up on running shoes anyway. But Thich Nhat Hanh claimed you as the great teacher, as a vessel for transformation. Maybe like kintsugi before the gold lacquer repair. Yes, maybe you are Leonard Cohen's crack in everything, the scant gash where the light gets in. Maybe you are the master attention getter, the soul's alarm clock, the body's wake-up call before it's too late. Yes, you are here to remind me that I am here. Hineni. Hineni is the Hebrew word for I am here. And kintsugi is a Japanese art form, where you put back together the shards of pottery with gold, and it's considered even more beautiful. Endurance. You are the one rule the stones try to teach me. You, Erdrich proclaims, are their incantation. If, as the Ojibwe say, rocks are alive and rocks are time, then you are their constant rhythm, unveiling yes and yes and yes, here I remain. In your echo, I hear my abuelo whispering to my mother, Hijita, take things as they come. And I am overtaken by the vision of a mountain, my mother, the bedrock of conviction. Her one rule scrapes the wind, we must go on. And she means on past the dagger of lost, past the severance of sisters who were once each other's halves, past the words left unspoken to a dying father, past the hole in the air a mother's laughter once filled, past the struggle to breathe with ease, past the hardened belief, my one rule of never being enough. Rescue me. Open sesame. Aim the dagger at the thief known by 40 other names, beginning with desire and ending with disappointment. Be my loyal Margiana, and on dulcet days I will sway to your timbrel until the hidden cave opens and the monolithic mother, Asin, thunders with knowing. Asin means stone in Ojibwe. Asanig is the plural. And Erdrich is Louise Erdrich. You probably know her as a novelist, also a poet. And she has a fantastic poem, a 6-part poem called Asanig, in which it's a creation story. That the universe began with a conversation between stones. So the stones are observing humans, and their one rule is endure. So I'd love to open it up for conversation, if that works for you.
Let's give Cindy a hand. We can start with that.
No, what's that?
We can start with that, giving you a hand.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have a question and answer period, and then Cindy is going to end the event with a poem. So please wait for Kristen to come with the microphone, because we've heard that we get the answer to the question on the recording, but not the question itself. So please try to do that, and I think I'll start. And well, I'd like to ask you if you could talk about putting the book together. How did it come to be? How was it in getting it together?
Well, I think that I know my husband Michael was always waiting for this, and I think that I needed to write in other voices, as I did in the second book, Inlay with Nacre, the Names of Forgotten Women, to stand up for their stories of global oppression and their resilience. And in the first book, I needed to engage with my heritage by writing in the voices of these poet kings from Mexico, from the Aztec poet kings, and also in the voice of Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, who was one of the most brilliant minds we've ever had in the Americas and one of the first feminists. And she was, part of New Spain, Nueva España. So I did have some poems about, certainly, about my father and my mother in the two sections of that book. But I think that I needed more time to be able to write this book. And my parents are no longer living, and that has a huge impact on us, doesn't it? And so I don't remember which was the first poem, but I just started down this path, and I knew that I wanted to dedicate it both to my father and my husband, and it just really was a very organic process. So I'm not sure I can say very much about the organization of it, and I was willing to include myself in it, which I don't often do.
Thank you.
I welcome, also observations. It doesn't have to be a question. Your feelings. Yes, Greg.
Was your father actually a writer? Did he leave you anything besides the list of synonyms you should have used?
He took a lot of notes. I mean, he would write for himself. And he was a voracious reader, in English and Spanish. He had an encyclopedia, Encyclopedia Taurina. He had a bullfight encyclopedia, right? Volumes and volumes. Books were, for him to go into a bookstore, he said it was like being in a candy store. He just loved words and loved to read. But yeah, I have a few things. He did start writing a poem once, and I did actually work with that, with him. Yeah, and that was quite wonderful. That was a special experience, yeah. And it was about Mexico's history, because he knew a lot about Mexican history in particular. He was born there, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Chris, Mike? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have or if you will be writing poems about your mother.
Oh yeah, I have a whole book dedicated to her. And actually, that's what's coming. You haven't met Wing yet, and that's coming. But the book I wrote about women, in terms of the global oppression around the world, these different women's stories, they were all real-life incidents. But I actually interweave poems about my mother. I've written a lot of poems about my mother as well. Yeah. And in the first book, it's half and half between my father and my mother. Yeah. You had something, Kristen?
Yes, I do. While you were reading, the phrase that kept coming over in my mind was anatomy of an image. And so I was thinking about, okay, does she think of a subject first and then build the image around it? Or does the image come to you and you connect it to a subject?
I know, that's such a good question. I'm not sure. I think probably it's an image, it's a phrase, it's a thought. I mean, I think about poems like a river, being raised on the river. I think about poems as a river. I think about them starting in one place and arriving somewhere else and having at least one bend in between, right, so that there's a discovery. So I never want, I strive not to contrive anything, to let it take me, right, the way that a river would take me. And so it's a very, very organic process. Actually, these new prose poems were more challenging in that way, yeah. Because I knew I wanted to, I would just, all I would know is acceptance or rage, or, I would just come up with that each morning, and then it went from there. But I didn't know that I wanted to write that to that particular emotion or quality.
Is there an image that that escapes you, that you feel like you can't get your fingers around, or do you feel like working with imagery comes easy to you?
I think because of where I was raised and my multiculturalism and, my father's obsessions and my mother's, I come from a Mexican matriarchy. I think there are just a lot of images that certainly have been bequeathed to me. And I think, and I'm married to a painter. I can never find anything in the house, and he'll say, I think it's on the third shelf of the, he knows exactly where it is because he's so visual. So hopefully that's helping me too.
Yeah, I would say so.
Should I close?
Who are you reading?
Oh my goodness, who am I reading these days? To tell you the truth, I'm in a Buddhist study group right now. So I'm reading about kama, which is also known as karma. And that is keeping me pretty busy, reading about that at this point. I have also recently read Ruth Ozeki. I adore Ruth Ozeki, Richard Powers, because I read a lot of novels, not only poetry. Yeah.
What do you read for your drama?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I try to watch it.
How does that work?
I try to watch it live, so that it's three-dimensional. But I've also been on the programming committee of a theater up in the Methow Valley, and that's a lot of fun because then you read a lot of scripts, right? So that can be a lot of fun as well, yeah. Should I close?
Well, let's see if there's any more questions. One last one. Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all here in the room and in cyberspace for the gift of your presence. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone who supports the Milwaukie Poetry Series. I was telling my husband, it's such a lovely series, not only because of the venue, but to be able to read from a new book, to have a broadside, to have it recorded. I mean, it's really a beautiful series. Thank you, Tom. You've done a great service for us for a long time. So I'm going to end by introducing you to Winged. It is a long poem. I hope that you'll stay with me here. Winged. She tosses and turns, flips over and over, her beak squeaking open. Her eyes closed, then fluttering, as if trying to piece together her body, her pain, the story of what stunned her in mid-flight. Her head droops, she stills, suddenly flaps her wings, skitters, no hobbles, and the flipping begins again. I do not leave her. I cannot abandon this patch of blue rug. I must witness a revival. Can flight survive the clear hardness of glass? This closed window insulating me from climbing temperatures. Heat weights the air. Air should carry wings. She spreads her left, favors her right. This black and white speckled fan refusing to open. My mother was turned from side to side in hospice. On her back, she cried out, "It's burning." No time for thinning skin to crack. 50 days of bedside vigil wasn't nearly enough. Death is a process, the hospice worker said. It's a labor to let life go. I told my mother stories about her childhood. She once said, "It's amazing how much you remember." Stories I had gathered from her like feathers. I was building a nest of memories, twining them together so we could rest in their down. A place to return, erasing the end for me, beginning again for her. Wings drafting behind those she loved. Her father's antidote, give it time. And the time he yelled, "Siéntate, salta pared," as she flitted back and forth from the front seat to the back of the car. The way his scolding mouth softened into a bird feeding its young. The worm, his tail about salta pared. A beautiful little bird that jumps up and down. His favorite little bird, in fact. And the mouth-watering aromas in her mother's kitchen, tamales de puerco, con pasas, calabacita, arroz con pollo, buñuelos, menudo, and Mama's proudest moments, the birth of her 2 daughters. The day my baby sister was born, I hid on the floorboard of our VW Bug. My father parked in front of the Capitol Record Store, years later my favorite hangout. My father had an autograph collection of Mexican LPs. It was the one thing I hoped he'd leave me. He left me alone in the car. No one under 14 admitted. I remember Mother waving to me from the hospital window, dressed in a lacy white peignoir. From the 3rd floor window, she looked smaller than me. I could make out her smile. I didn't feel scared anymore. I sit in vigil, cross-legged by the French doors. The 3-toed woodpecker is too beautiful to die. Am I too old to cross my heart hope to die? I will her to recover from her dart into double-paned glass. I love the way breath fogs on glass, the way you can draw hearts or words in the mist of breath. I was not there for my mother's last breath. Her eyes closed, her mouth gaping. 20 minutes can be a maw of time. I cannot take my eyes from the bird's thin tongue. All I heard, thump, eek, eek, the bird lolling on the patio, her long black beak too close to the ground. She is my first sighting. I don't look in the bird book until later. I had been listening to a talk about long-armed poems, what they sweep into their wake of words. I witnessed the bird on the brink between waking and not, between frantic and still. I missed the last moments of my friend Linda's life. I was ill and didn't pick up my work line. It was the only number her husband knew to call. She wanted to see me. By the next day, she was on the threshold. All I could do, safeguard her passage. Sometimes there are no words for what we do. I didn't guide my friend, but I wasn't beside the votive candle I had lit either. Maybe I was closer to the threshold than I'd ever been. You see, it was Linda first, then my father, then my brother-in-law, then my mother. Pancreatic, esophageal, lymphoma, breast, and in between, lung, my diagnosis. Breath is a process. I was lucky. I want this mama bird to be lucky too. Does luck strike in threes? I can see the 3 toes on her claw closing like a fist. Fight, little bird, fight. My mother fought her way out of a coma. One day she awoke, sat up, and spoke. She spoke all 3 weeks in hospice. She even sang happy birthday with me to her caregiver. Near the end, her left arm kept flitting up toward her head and down again. A compass needle, a wing priming for flight. My husband thinks the woodpecker's right wing is broken. I want her left wing to be enough. I want my mother's flitting arm to be enough. I want to be enough. I will not move from this spot. I watch her breathing. The bird's white breast crests and falls. She flips, flips, and flips again. Heads, tails, heads. My father collected coins and rocks and stamps and Mexican music. He did not leave me things. He did leave me. Sometimes a different kind of leaving happens too near the end. A heart loses its way. How long before it reclaims its true north? We can meet at the threshold. Maybe we carry the threshold within us. The day before my mother passed, I left her side. I was reading her nest of stories. I was flying with her to the threshold on currents of story and memory. Little bird, here I am. I am witness to your labor. My mother could no longer swallow. The hint of a rattle. The bird barely moves, but a burst of movement. The bird stretches, wings and claws reach towards something I can't see. Her eyes open. She will surely take to the sky. Stillness. I could have stayed that night. Listen to the rattle deepen. Regret is a ravenous wind. Years devoured in seconds. You sit for 50 days and miss the last 50 seconds. If I live for another 50 years, I want to live beside the threshold, astride the threshold, one wing joined with my mother, my father, here, one wing opening. Thank you. So this was yours.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Cindy has books over here, so I think you do, don't you? Oh, okay. They're in the car, and she's going to be back. So in the meantime, there's some refreshments over here. If you'd like to have some up, please help yourself. If you want to take some with you, that's fine. That's what they're for. Thank you so much, so much, so much for being here.